should be able to.
So on behalf of the Trenton Board of Education, I welcome you to our Trenton TV radio broadcast on Trenton Talks. Thank you for our sponsors, WIMG 1300 AM and Verizon, WPHY, Verizon Channel 28. Thank you to our sponsors. Our sponsors are really doing a great work for our community, and we're so thankful to our sponsors. My name is Gerald Trueheart. I'm your host. I serve as a board member on the Trenton Board of Education. I also chair the Family and Community Engagement Committee and School Support Committee. I serve along with other board members on our committee, our board president, Addie Daniels Lane, and our board committee members, Denise Johnson, Yolanda Moreto Lopez, and Teron Tice. I also serve as chair of the board policy committee, as a member of the Human Resources, as well as the Buildings and Grounds Facilities Committee. I want to thank our superintendent, Mr. James Earl, for his leadership, for his support, and for his commitment to our school community. I also want to thank Mr. Wilfredo Ortiz, our Assistant Superintendent of School Support, for all of his support for the Trenton Board of Ed TV radio. And of course, our co-host, Ms. Denise Crease, our Parent Coordinator, Homeless Liaison for Trenton Public Schools. I want to thank all of our attendees that are Zooming in through Zoom Live and also through our Trenton Public Schools Facebook Live page. I want to again thank our sponsors. I can't thank them so much. WIMG 1300 AM, 5-time Stellar Award-winning gospel station, and of course, Verizon Channel 28 WPHY. We're rebroadcast on our radio on Tuesday nights. That's tonight at 7 p.m. We're rebroadcast on Verizon on Thursdays at 11 p.m. And you can catch us on our YouTube channel, Trenton TV, as well as, of course, live on our Facebook page, Trenton Public Schools. We have an exciting broadcast for you tonight. We have on the talk one of my high school friends way back from the Lawrence Township days, Principal Adrian Hill, and her whole team here from the Hedgepeth Williams School of the Arts, as well as our partner. And I thank God for our partner from Passage Theater, Dylan. Thank you so much for being a part of our broadcast. Katie Harrell, our theater arts teacher from over at Hedgepeth Williams Middle School of the Arts. Christopher Werner, who is a 7th and 8th grade social studies teacher. Of course, Adrian Hill, our principal, our star principal over at Hedgepeth Williams School of the Arts. Adrian, can you share with us all the great work that's happening over there at Hedgepeth Williams Middle School of the Arts and the partnership that you've established with the Passage Theater Company right here in Trenton, New Jersey? Adrian?
Hello, thank you for having me and my team. First, I have to say that partnerships are the cornerstone of our school. We really have established a lot of great relationships that help to move our goals forward and our vision. We became a School of the Arts a few years ago. We petitioned the board to be renamed the School of the Arts. And that was because we had the mission of really using the arts as a vehicle for self-expression, building confidence, supporting content area work, and helping students to just really come into their own. Middle school is a challenging time. So it's helpful to give them outlets for the things that they're feeling and learning and seeing in the world and in their homes. We have partnerships with Passage Theater. Obviously, they're local, they're great and high quality. We have partnerships with the Metropolitan Opera. We've had McCarter Theater in the past, now Jacob's Music. We've got a lot of different partners that really help to supplement what we do with the board, what we can do with the board. This actually widens our reach, widens our scope, gives professional development to our staff, but most importantly, gives our students exposure to some experiences that they may not otherwise have. So our partnership with Passage is amazing because number one, you know, this is an historic school. We're pre-Brown versus Board of Education is one of the first schools to desegregate in the country. And so this year, in speaking with the Passage staff, Dylan and Ryan Dominguez and others, we really wanted to focus on the history of the school and the richness of the name. It's not just the name of a school. It represents families, it represents a movement. And so with this project, our students get to work with professional artists. They get to have people listen to them and synthesize their words to make a unique and new take on the story. They 3 times a week, they're learning how to tell stories, how to write, which we need writing improvement. So anytime we can get an opportunity for them to read and write in a different way, it's exciting because the students don't really see it as reading and writing. They think they're just having fun, but it's fun while learning. And that's really what this partnership is all about. As a result of our partnership, we're hoping that in our early talks, we've got some exciting things. They're willing to help us refurbish our light board, our sound booth, and if all goes as planned, we will become a professional equity theater. So it's really exciting to take this school to another level, and we couldn't do it without partners like Passage. So I won't take everything from the team. I want them to talk to you and tell you the work that's been going on with our babies, our cubs.
So Adrian, tell us exactly who you'd like to get started first. Who is one of your, I know all of them are all-stars. Well, who was the first person that you want us to?
Don't do that to me. They're all my favorites. Let's say,
Drum roll.
Here's the safe way. I'm gonna go with Dylan at Passage.
So Dylan, tell us about the exciting work that's happening with the partnership with Hedgepeth.
Yeah, absolutely.
The arts.
Yeah, so Passage is deeply committed to creating socially relevant work in the city of Trenton that relates to the community, and this couldn't be a more natural relationship because of the amazing work that's already being done at Hedgepeth Williams and the wonderful kids that are there. So as you can see next to me, we have a season of 3 shows next year, this being one of them. And we are actually going to have the opportunity at the end of this partnership, hopefully to produce a play in the Hedgepeth Williams Theater with professional actors, an entire professional design team, and as Principal Hill said, an equity house. So that's really exciting for both us and for the teachers and students over at Hedgepeth. Right now, we're sort of just starting the beginning of the partnership. Our teaching artists are going into the school and they're working with some of Mr. Werner's students, and they're just sort of exploring the case and the history that Principal Hill mentioned, and starting to see how that relates to theater and drama and arts in practice. So they're starting to write some small scenes, and our professional teaching artists are starting to sort of weave those together into a story that sort of makes sense. And we're also working alongside Princeton University and the Program for Community Engaged Scholarship. We're having some grad students come in and do a deeper dive into the history, and I think Mr. Werner can talk to you a little bit more about that. And we have some professors who are interested in studying this history and sort of going into the archives and uncovering some things that honestly we haven't dove into before. And incorporating that into the work that we're doing for the show. So it's a really exciting partnership, and it sort of goes outside the realm of just a traditional theater for young audiences show that a local regional theater might produce. We're really excited about the opportunity to connect one-on-one with the students and with the teachers and create something that is meaningful to the community and that is created together.
Excellent.
I have a quick question, Dylan.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing all this wonderful information. So with your program, is this available for every single student in the school, or is it through application, or is it by semester? Like, how do they get linked into your program?
Yeah, so as we've been piloting the program this year, we've just been working alongside Mr. Werner and Miss Harrell's classes, and just sort of weaving it in with the students that are already in those classes. But we're hoping that as time goes on, we can continue to bring more students from the school into it, students especially that are interested in theater or have, spoken to some of the theater professors, theater teachers, and spoken to the principal and said, hey, this is something I would really, really like to do. So we're sort of starting to trickle some of those students in, and hopefully by the spring semester, in 2022, we'll have a handful of other students who are interested, and just sort of keep piling it on as we go.
Awesome. So how many students are involved currently?
Right now, there's about 30 who are actively doing the workshops every week with our teaching artists. And like I said, hopefully we're going to continue to rotate them and add more students. And I hope that we can continue this into future school years as well.
Absolutely.
Can I add on to that? I just
Yeah.
want to say that when we all sat down early on, we really discussed the maturity of the participants. So while sixth grade has all this energy and it would be great for them to be able to handle this content, we were very mindful that it's sensitive in nature too. We still have lots of families from the Hedgepeth side and the Williams side who live and work in the district. They live in the city. And we wanted to make sure that we're able to honor them with respect. And not that sixth graders cannot be respectful, but they just tend to not be there yet in the maturity that we need for this production.
So it sounds like, Adrian, that is primarily 7th and 8th graders, I'm understanding. Great, that's awesome. Mr. Werner and Ms. Harrell, you work directly with the students on a day-to-day basis, along with your principal, Adrian Hill. Could you share with us and Dylan and that connection, the impact on the students, and more specifically, how the students are receiving the instruction, and this and more, it's more like their hands-on learning experience when they're involved with the theater and acting and so forth and learning the material. How is that being infused into the curriculum, into your classrooms? And has it been successful for you in terms of kids picking up the lessons in the classroom regarding the material?
I guess I could start with that. Just to piggyback off of what Ms. Hill said at first about the partnerships, I think that's really important for the students overall. And I'm really lucky to have had a few partnerships in the past, which I feel has been very helpful in preparing for something this enormous, right? To create a production. And working with Passage, one of the teaching artists is one of the same people I was working with. So we have a great teaching relationship. Overall, I think that the students, it's amazing seeing how excited they get when the teaching artists come in. They like to clap. They're a fun bunch of kids. And, asking questions. And like one of the things that we did, I have to show you, the Princeton scholar, she came in and she had us map Trenton. And we looked at a map from 1930 and we mapped historical Trenton, like what was historically the Black African-American section, where are the schools, where's the courts. And it was just really powerful for the students to see that. And then we looked at where the district mapping is today with the middle schools, because obviously that's very relevant. And we looked at where their houses were. So it's interesting. We have all different types of activities and lessons. So like Dylan was talking about reflecting and writing and standing up and acting. We're learning geography, we're doing video analysis, and it's just been incredible. And I'm very excited for the 8th graders to be joining us soon and to be transitioning more into the theater and having Ms. Harrell take over with more of the hands-on stuff in the theater while I work on more of the academic stuff in the classroom.
Great, Kate. You're muted, Ms. Harrell.
I'm so sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
So piggybacking on what Ms. Hill and Dylan and Mr. Warner have said, the benefits for the theater program and for the school as a whole, for the students, is that the student actors will be performing with 2 members of Actors Equity Association. We have 2 unionized actors who will be joining our students on stage for the culminating production. The student actors will also be managed on stage by a stage manager who is also a member of Actors Equity Association. So this partnership with Passage Theater for the onstage aspect is allowing our students to collaborate directly with professional actors who are members of the union and who are working in the industry. Backstage, our student backstage crew members will be working with unionized backstage crew members who are members of IATSE, which is the International Alliance, for theatrical stage employees. So once again, this partnership benefits our onstage students as well as our backstage students in that they are getting hands-on work experience in a professional production alongside professional workers. And that is creating a huge plus, not only for my theater program, but for the school as a whole. Additionally, the partnership with Passage Theater Company, as Ms. Hill mentioned earlier, allows for possible donations in the form of costuming, prop, and scenery, construction materials. Dylan and I have talked about, and I've also talked with other employees of Passions Theater Company about getting a new sound operating board and sound equipment for our school. The potential for getting a light operation board and lighting equipment for the school, as well as communication devices for our audiovisual booth backstage in front of house. So I'm really excited about the possibility of getting new and improved equipment to use here at the school, not only as teaching material for my students, but also as material to be operating the theater at the on a more 21st century level. Lastly, as Ms. Hill mentioned, we of course certainly want to see the potential for future collaborations with Passage Theater Company. We also are looking for the potential incorporation to become a unionized theater to offer summer residency programs here at Hedgepeth Williams Middle School of the Arts. And those residency programs would not only benefit our students, but students across Trenton Public Schools District and across the Trenton community. The potential to produce a summer repertory season here in this theater at Hedgepeth Williams Middle School of the Arts would create jobs for students, jobs for Trenton Public Schools employees for summer employment, as well as jobs for the Trenton community as a whole. So this is where this vision goes beyond Hedgepeth Williams, beyond Trenton Public Schools District, and into the city of Trenton itself. And hopefully, one of the things that Adrian and I have been bouncing back and forth is the potential to rename the theater to become a civic theater, not just a middle school auditorium, with full regional theater unionized accreditation.
Can you explain that a little bit further? You know, you said rename the theater to a civic theater. What does that mean exactly for the school? I know that you're talking about bringing in more jobs and more responsibility for the students, but what does that actually mean for parents and community?
Can I speak to that?
Yeah.
So one of the things we were thinking about is, well, what I've always thought is that schools should really be access places for the community. Like even when I was the vice principal here years ago, I thought that this place should be like a community center. We have all the resources. There are no community centers right here. that the community, we should prepare our students to go out into the community, but the community should also be able to come into the school. And so one of the things I talked with some of my leadership with was about, this should be a revenue generating space. You've got all of these amazing spaces and resources, and people always want to use an auditorium. They wanted to use it before we renovated, but now you could really have a professional theater with a name like the so-and-so theater. And so people would want to have a professional show here. If you want, you don't have to use just the local churches, or there really are no theater houses outside of Passage Theater in the city of Trenton. So there's limited, but we've got a large space, and we've got a renovated space and a beautiful space that the community should be able to use, and it should benefit the school district. And so if you could have revenue generating spaces like a music studio that we're thinking about, and a broadcast room, and an auditorium, a state-of-the-art auditorium, you could actually generate more funds to help support student activities and what students want to do, or what you want them to learn, or experiences you want them to have, without tapping into taxpayer dollars and other sources.
Yeah, I really see that. I hear your vision, and I hear it written down and on its way to coming reality. This also, I see this as an opportunity for Adrian and Kate and Christopher and Dylan, Mr. Ortiz and Denise, opportunity for our middle school students as they matriculate through the district onto ninth grade academy, but having that vision, maybe it even puts them on track to be a part of that small learning community at Trenton Central High School, visual and performing arts, and really give them a real good taste of what that looks like. And I love the vision of having.
Gerald, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. But
Oh, go ahead.
That was the reason we decided to change the name. Like, that was the whole. So having come from the high school and running the Visual and Performing Arts Academy, there wasn't a feeder program for the high school. The high school is a gateway to college and career. So if we could back map and put some supports and exposure at the middle school level, then we should have a more robust program when the students get to the high school, or when they go out into the career world. So, as Kate was telling you about all these unions, by the way, she and I are both union actresses. So to have them work at a professional level prepares them better for what they want to do when they leave high school.
Yes,
college or career.
I just want to, I love the vision, and I kind of want to circle it back to the work that you guys are currently focused on right now, and it's the Hedgepeth Williams story. I believe, from my understanding, at Passage Theater Company, of course, April 1st through April the 3rd, co-written and performed by theater professionals and students at Hedgepeth Williams Middle School of the Arts. It says this show will tell the history of the landmark court case in Trenton that desegregated Trenton public schools and laid the groundwork for a more equitable educational system across the country. I think that's going to be so very important, and it happens to be coming on the foothills of Black History Month being in February. March, the very next month, next couple of months later, April. I think it's a great segue from all the work that's going to happen during Black History Month into April, so that it's almost we're sharing the history, African American history, all year long with the support from Passage Theater and Hedgepeth Williams School of the Arts. So I just think that's a testimony to the work that's happening in our district, specifically over there at Hedgepeth Williams Middle School. Adrian?
I think, this is going to be key, because a lot of people don't even know why Hedgepeth Williams is called Hedgepeth Williams. They think it's actually a person whose first name was Hedgepeth and his last name was Williams. And I'm saying no. And I get really offended when people shorten it to Hedgepeth, or they call it Hedgepath. I'm consistently correcting people on that, because I know that what it means to the community, I know what it means to the families, and I know the history behind it. So, when you want someone to learn your name, sometimes we will allow people to give us a nickname or a shirt. I do not allow that. So it is Hedgepeth Williams. Now, we added the middle school of the arts part, but the Hedgepeth Williams is a significant and historical part of our name. And there's no shortcut to it.
I know that's right.
As the social studies teacher working with the students, it's fascinating talking about the 20th century, right? They were born when Obama was elected. So their lens is profound. And, as we're developing the play and what they're reflecting on is just, it's powerful. Like when we discuss, hey, this school was built in the Works Progress Administration, it was a segregated school. Like, for times, it's often hard for them to wrap their heads around what Trenton looked like, but their perspectives are awesome. And what we're putting together with what they're starting to write, it's going to be pretty cool. I'm really looking forward to sharing it with the community.
Denise?
I was just about to say, Mr. Ortiz, I don't know if you wanted to jump in because I know he has to hop off shortly. If he had any questions
Mr.
or anything
Ortiz.
he wanted to share.
I'm excited to hear what's happening. I'm also thinking in terms of we're planning to do this reconfiguration, right? And what is the impact of the reconfiguration on what is happening at Hedgepeth Williams? So it gives me a chance to stop and think and reflect and so that's what I'm doing right now. You saw that I'm quiet. Normally I'm not quiet, but I'm just reflecting on that, okay? And how to, what happens. And so that's not for this meeting, obviously, but I'm getting ready to go to the reconfiguration meeting now. But I do have one thing that I would like to say, because I believe in project-based learning, and I believe that students learn better by doing, by being out of the classroom sometimes, that learning doesn't always have to be in four walls, it could be outside. And so I want to ask the two teachers, how do you grade kids, these students? Is that part of how, do you integrate that into your grading system if they participate or they do certain things, as opposed to just, ELA reading and just a social studies component? Could you talk a little bit about how you integrate this? Because to me, that's project-based learning. And how do you put it in in Power School, right? Because you got to put stuff in Power School. So could you talk a little bit about that?
So right now I'm calculating it for 35% of their grade.
Okay.
And, it wouldn't be fair to grade students if they read out loud or participated in that sense. So they do get an overall participation grade, but also stuff that they write. We do a lot of like exit tickets. They take notes during the videos, questions that they have, character development. We have students of all different, ability levels. We have a student who speaks French Creole. So working with him and differentiating a little bit as a recent immigrant. So, the assignments overall, they look very similar, where we use pads and Chromebooks, but it kind of depends on the lesson that the Princeton or the teaching artist wants to work on that day.
Okay.
And, we kind of we go with it.
Thank you. And Ms. Harold?
So my classes are graded both formatively and summatively on growth. There are skills, how to operate a fly system, how to operate a soundboard, how to operate a lighting board, that are very specific, that can be graded using traditional formats, a multiple choice question, true or false, essays, things such as theater history are often essay-based or research paper-based. Then there are things that are a little bit less solid, such as character analysis and script analysis. When it comes to grading students for those types of things, I am looking for growth. Has the student grown in comprehension of the playwright's work? Has the student grown in comprehension of a character's objectives? And then certainly, for theater, there is ultimately a performance that happens. And once again, I'm looking for growth. Has the student grown from the shy, I'm not quite sure I'm ready to be on stage, I think I may be suffering from stage fright, to the point where they're able to get up in front of their peers and perform monologues and scenes?
Thank you.
May I add on to that? So we're fortunate because over the last few years, And since becoming a School of the Arts, we are embarking on arts integration initiative. So the arts are embedded into every class in some way. It's using the standards from the content area, using the standards from the arts area, and assessing on both areas. So it's not like you're substituting one set of skills for another set of skills. It's really about where they intersect and how you can use both sets of skills to reach the goals, the academic goals and the arts goals at the same time. And that makes it gradable.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that.
That's excellent work. So we're gonna take we'll take a few minutes for announcements, Denise, and then we're gonna come back to a question for Dylan in our second half. Denise?
Awesome. So Mr. Ortiz mentioned that tonight is the redistricting meeting with our superintendent. So we're having a community town hall at Kilmer School at 5:30 tonight. So redistricting, where the school district is looking at changing the grade levels per school building. So we're looking at K-3 buildings, 4-6 buildings, and 7-8. No changes for high school. Okay, also COVID vaccines are still available for children 5 years old up to 11. So if you're interested in getting more information or having your child vaccinated, Mondays, it's happening at Kilmer Elementary School from 4 to 7 p.m. That's 1300 Stuyvesant Avenue. Tuesdays at Rivera Middle School from 4 to 7. That's 400 North Montgomery Street. Wednesdays at Trenton Central High School from 4 to 7, 400 Chambers Street. Thursdays, there's also other opportunities. Medical Home Pharmacy is providing vaccine shots, Curina, and the Trenton Deliverance Center. Also, our wonderful school that we're featuring today was able to do a Thanksgiving giveaway for their families. So thank you so much to West Windsor Police Department for donating 65 turkeys. Thank you to Wegmans to donating 2 hot meals for some of our needy families. And thank you to Phi Beta Sigma for donating 3 $100 ShopRite gift cards. Also, the Family and Community Engagement Department partnered with the Trenton Police Station today. Today, we gave out 100 turkey giveaway food meals to our families, which is equivalent to 435 meals that will be provided for Thanksgiving. Also, we're continuing our Parent Connection series. We're on a weekly basis. The Family and Community Engagement Department is meeting with parents to have a variety of conversations. And the past 2 weeks, we've been talking about anxiety. So through our project chat with Temple University, so caregivers are hearing about anxiety treatments. So if you're interested in learning more about how to be connected with our Parent Connections educational series, I will drop a link into the Facebook page and into the Zoom chat for any families that are interested in getting connected and getting more resources on how to stay further connected between home and school. Are there any other announcements that I missed that you would like to share, Mr. Trueheart?
No, I think you covered it well. All of our announcements that we have, great work here in the capital city of Trenton, New Jersey at our Trenton Public Schools. And I want to circle back to Dylan in reference to Passage Theater Company. I know that our partnership with you is robust and is going in the right direction. We've established through Adrian Hill's leadership in her district and with her teachers, Christopher and Kate, a great vision for the future. But I want to talk to you more about some other things that are happening over at Passage Theater Company. OK Trenton Project, February 3rd to February 20th, and also Groot, May 5th to May 22nd. Could you share? And they happen to be before and after the April 1st, April 3rd with the Hedgepeth Williams story. And so could you share some more information about what's happening over at Passage Theater and additional programming that's coming next year?
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, those 2 other productions are, sandwiching this beautiful show that we're putting together here. And all 3 of the shows are a part of our season, which is themed around Trenton Makes. So they're all stories from the city of Trenton somehow being woven into the narrative. So the first show, the OK Trenton Project, is an extremely special and interesting project that has been in development for over 4 years now. And it was based around an incident in 2017 when a summer camp put up a sculpture on the corner of Perry and Montgomery Street, and that sculpture was very quickly taken down due to anonymous allegations that it looked too much like a gang sign. And we've done over 30 community interviews over the last couple of years. And that show has a huge and interesting and diverse team that has been really, really working so hard to develop content for it. And so many community members have so many different perspectives on that situation as it pertains to the city and violence and gang culture and public art. And it really tells an interesting story about the city of Trenton and where we are today in so many ways. So I can't recommend enough that you join us. Our opening night is February 5th, and that show runs for 3 weekends down at the Mill Hill Playhouse. And then our third show of the season, Group, is also a really interesting and unique project. And that is a new musical that has been in development for quite some time now as well. And Passage historically has only done a handful of musicals in our over 35 years. And this show is centered around a women's group, an addiction and recovery group. And all of the characters sort of have a different background and a different story and come from a different place in life. And it is based here in the city of Trenton. And you wouldn't think that would lend itself to a musical, but the music is really interesting and the stories are amazing. We've had a first workshop for that show that took place last month, and there will be a second public workshop that takes place in January as the writers and the director continue to sort of figure out what the piece is going to be, and then the full production will be mounted, like you said, in April and May.
Excellent, excellent, Dylan. Thank you so much for that information. One of the things that I kind of gleaned from that conversation that we're having, not only in the first half with the work that's happening over at Hedgepeth Williams, but the difference in the different types of work that's being done. I mean, OK Trenton Project is a documentary, right? The Hedgepeth Williams story is more like a play, and the group is a musical, right? So those are very much different styles of productions that happen in theater, right? And so between Dylan, Kate, and Christopher, how is that being communicated to students first? And then secondly, do the students pick up on the different types of theater? I'm not a theater person. I'm thinking through the process logically as a school business administrator, but thinking of it from a documentary versus a play versus a musical, right? So the kids pick up on that there are really differences in style and how you actually go about production in the theater company. I will start with you, Dylan, and then Kate, and then Chris.
Yeah, well, the students are doing something that is really quite special and quite rare, which is that they're creating sort of a devised piece of theater, meaning that they are coming up with material on the spot and they're working with our teaching artists to sort of weave that together. And so the students themselves are devising the play that is being written for junior high. So that's a very special kind of theater that really is sometimes very challenging to produce, but the students are handling it with ease. And I think that they're really starting to see what goes into making a play, because obviously some of them have had exposure to theater before, some of them haven't, but I don't think any of them who haven't been through Miss Harrell's class quite understand the process of starting a play from the ground up. So I think that is something that is so interesting for so many of the students. and really applies to disciplines outside of theater as well. So we're really glad to start to see that experiential learning take action through this project. Yeah.
Kate?
Piggybacking on what Dylan said in regard to your question, do the students understand the similarities and differences between documentaries, between musicals, between plays? The answer is that's a big chunk of my job as their theater arts teacher, is to teach them those similarities and differences. In some other theater programs at other middle schools, you may see students focusing on shows such as Shrek the Musical or Little Mermaid the Musical. My students dig deeper than that. They learn about Shakespeare. They learn about Tennessee Williams. They learn about Lorraine Hansberry. They learn about opera and Mozart and Mendelssohn. So they're getting a wide range of all the different types of productions that can be mounted on a stage. What I love about the stage and what I teach my students to love about the stage is that the stage is like this canvas, much like a visual artist paints a picture on a canvas. The actors, the actresses, the directors, the choreographers, the backstage crew, the set designers, costume designers, and lighting designers all work together as painters to paint a picture for the audience on the stage. And that picture comes in a variety of formats, no matter what type of story you're telling. The beauty of the stage, when you think about William Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream, obviously, originally, Mr. Shakespeare wrote it as a play. It has seen formats of opera. It has seen formats of movie, motion picture. It has seen formats of rock and roll. So I think that is what I hope my students come to visualize, is that the theater is a canvas on which any amount of creation can be designed.
I'd say two thoughts that connect to what you were saying. When Ms. Hill was talking about being a school of the arts, took me a while to kind of connect this, but everything in social studies is art, right? Buildings, music, movies, stories, monuments, artifacts. It's the history of the world, and it's displayed through how people decide to tell their story. So I feel like that lens that I've had shift has definitely informed how I teach. And I'm super Mr. Project-based learning. And when I started teaching, I have the students develop a play from scratch, like that is a really big deal. But I've been really lucky to partner with McCarter and young audiences and pastors in the past. And I feel like when you say, how do you know, how do you explain to the students, how are they different? Oh, I think a lot of that background information has helped me, because I've seen them do different things with monologues. We've had them perform in other places. So I think when you navigate that space in that way, you can be pretty successful. And it's interesting because some of the students, they all connect differently, right? So we try really hard, I know, with the teaching artists, to make sure that the ways that they learn, we really try to differentiate, so they can get the most out of the experience and also feel validated and contribute.
Thank you. Principal Hill, could you share your lens on that question, and then back to Denise?
Well, I think, I mean, everything that they've already said, pretty much everything that I could have said on that. But it's just watching the pieces come together. Like if you're picturing all of this as a puzzle, and how each piece tells a different part of a story, and how we can use their own lives as a way of different ways of telling a story. So even sometimes if there's a discipline challenge, I make them reenact it. Okay, I'll be the teacher, you be you. Let's see how this went. So there's a way of telling it that way. Sometimes I'm singing to them. Sometimes drawing something so they can understand it. So they understand that there are different ways to tell a story. There are different genres. There are different vehicles to get to the same place. You can take a bike, you can roller skate, you can walk, you can drive, you can take a bus, an airplane, right? But all of it has the same goal to get to the end or get to the destination. And so when we talk to them about telling a story and making sure it has a beginning, a middle, and an end, or making sure that there's a clear goal and focus and place that you want to end up, they understand that if you put it into real terms for them. So I think the team is doing an amazing job at really differentiating the different vehicles that they can use to tell their story and to tell the Hedgepeth Williams story.
Thank you so much, Ms. Hill. So some questions that pop up in my head as you're developing these students and they're becoming these mini professional artists, and they're learning how to tell their stories in a creative way. Are you seeing that they're becoming like school leaders, or their school attendance is, far better than some of the other students in the school? I know that we're talking about a small population of kids, but are you seeing those differences in these students that are participating in your theater classes?
I know you use the phrase small population. My program right now, if I had to give an estimated number, I've got over 400 students involved in my program.
Awesome.
So, yeah, it's a really big program here, which I am very pleased and very humbled and very proud of all of them. And yes, they show growth every day in leadership. And one of the things that I stress with them is that the skills that they learn as theater artists can be applied to other careers. It's the great thing about our arts integration programming here at Hedgepeth Williams, is that I can tell them, like, hey, the speaking on stage in front of a group of people, that's going to be useful to you in Mr. Warner's class. If you ever need to give a report on ancient Greece, you're going to be able to have the confidence to do it. As far as costume design, set design, once again, let's say that you need to, present your science project in a science class. Come up with a costume. Don't just be a student, be a scientist. Dress like a scientist and give your scientific presentation. Use your design skills to create your media materials, whether it be a trifold poster or a Google slide presentation. The skills that they learn in my class can be applied in their other classes as well, and vice versa. Yes, I teach theater. Part of teaching theater arts is teaching the history of theater, which is where I do incorporate social studies. My students find that the online tools that they use in Chris's class are very helpful to them in my class. The same thing goes for their math classes, especially with backstage work. Set design and costume design is all based on math. Lighting design is all based on science. So that's, I think, the really cool aspect of arts integration, is that it works both ways.
Awesome. So yeah, so when I had mentioned smaller part of the program, I was talking about the reference of those being involved with the Passage Theater, but that's good to hear. So parents need to hear this, that over 400 students are participating in some level of the arts program at Hedgepeth Williams School of the Arts. So I know that Ms. Hill wanted to mention something as well. Did you want to chime in?
Well, I was just going to say, and let's talk about the small portion. It really is all of the students in some way are going to be involved in the arts, because we have what's called Genius Hour, and once a month we do a revised schedule on a Wednesday, and the teachers are working on projects in which they're interested in and which students are interested in. They collaborate to create these projects that are both arts-based and content-based, and that gives them just more exposure to a broader range of skills. As Kate said, these skills are all transferable. And so I really think I want to add something too that we're not talking about here, and not just with Passage Theater, but the value of the arts work that we're doing here. It benefits our staff as well. So you have some staff members who may be a little bit more shy or a little bit more introverted or a little more rigid in their delivery, but now they're exploring and they're not afraid to try different things and be creative in ways that help to reach and teach our students. So, and even our student teachers, we have student teachers right now from TCNJ, we have 4, and just watching them blossom and coming to school in costumes and really just becoming a part of our family. I would hate to see them go, actually, but in one student in particular, when speaking with the TCNJ director, it's like, I can't believe that this is the same person that walked into the door in September. I said, yes, that's what this place will do to you, and that's what the arts will do for you. And so having partnerships with places like Passage or Young Audiences or any other organization that allows us to express what we're feeling, especially coming, still in the pandemic, but coming out of remote learning, this has been really helpful for our students and our staff to be able to express themselves.
For sure.
Say something real quick.
I definitely wanted to add, because, Hedgepeth has been the leader.
Hedgepeth Williams, excuse me, Hedgepeth Williams.
Hedgepeth Williams.
Thank you.
No shortcuts here. Has been the leader on student attendance and being creative and engaging these different organizations to boost student attendance. And that's really kind of where I wanted to go with the conversation. And it's awesome to see that these things are happening at your school. Chris, I'm sorry if I cut you off.
No, I just would say I've seen it in this program and all the other partnerships I've been blessed with being a part of, that meaningful instruction and meaningful activities that allow students and children to express themselves is what makes them want to get involved. And I definitely have seen that expressed very well through the arts and all the ways we can integrate it. And, in social studies, I feel like I have the easy avenue in which I can do that. So yeah, I will say the kids actually they're like, are we doing it today? Oh, okay. And now they know exactly what day. They know we have 3 different artists working with us, so they know who's coming in what day. It's just, yeah, it's real. Like the attendance and participating, and they're becoming a community because they're going through this shared experience. So it's cool.
And Jadis, can I say something? So about the attendance, the whole idea was build it and they will come. You have to feel like you're missing out on something if you don't come to school. You're missing out on an opportunity to do something different. You're also, if you don't come to school, it's like the lottery. You have to be in it to win it. So when we begin to open up and do our trips again to the Metropolitan Opera and doing that work, or going to the Passage Theater with, Chris just submitted something, I hope you all will approve, for us to go to Passage Theater to see a show, you have got to be in it to win it. If you want to participate in some of these extra things, you've got to do what's expected of you first. And that's really how we work on the attendance. If you want to do all these other things, you've got to invest in the real work, and then you can get to do other different kinds of work.
Principal Hill, I truly honor your excellence and your integrity to the point where I want to be an 8th grader again. I want to come back to 8th grade.
You should come over. You can be.
Come back, my God. You make it so exciting. And so I hear your passion, I hear your love, not only in your voice, right? But in the voice of Kate, Ms. Harrell, in the voice of Christopher, even the voice of Dylan, our community partner here, who's doing a great work in our community over at Passage Theater Company, also in our district at Trenton Public Schools. I hear the passion in all your voices, and that rings true to how you communicate with students, right? And how you relate to this School of the Arts and this mission and this vision to the students, and that growth that you saw in that student that you said, wow, is that the same student? That's a testimony to the work that's being done over at your school, Principal Hill. And it made me really think about social emotional learning and how you positioned the school and the school culture and the climate around arts and how that has integrated into the entire curriculum over at Hedgepeth Williams. I'm gonna get that right, amen. And so can you speak to just a few minutes, speak on your lens, what you see in terms of how it's impacting the student social emotional learning as we come out of the pandemic from a remote virtual world to from that to a hybrid to now in person, and how that has shaped your students' lives and your team.
Oh, absolutely. We started, pretty much everything we do has been SEL based prior to anyone jumping on the SEL thing. I worked in kids in crisis shelter and juvenile detention center, and knowing what could happen when you don't address some of the social emotional needs. That's kind of the lens that I use with everything. This year, our theme for the whole school is from trauma to triumph. And that's for the staff. We started with the staff with that theme, and then it trickles down to our students. And so we're, practicing grace with everyone, with each other, with ourselves, with our students, not finding excuses, not letting people off the hook, holding people accountable, but being mindful that this past year has been traumatic and there's been lots of loss. So everything we do has to be SEL based. So when a kid does something or, experiences an infraction, let's dig deeper. Let's not just suspend. Let's look at why. And that's kind of what we did with our attendance too. Like, let's look at the why. Why is someone absent? Is there some reason they don't want to come to school? Is there some emotional thing going on at home? Is there a social issue? We reach out to Denise all the time, students who need food or a place to live or lights on. Those students don't necessarily care about what X stands for. They don't care about the Hedgepeth Williams story if they can't have their basic needs met. So we make every effort, and even during the pandemic, to meet those needs. We gave out food probably 20 times, pairing up with our local churches. And that was during the pandemic. We delivered food, and members of our whole staff, including Kate and Chris, came out to be a part of that. So you can't really help the student if you can't help their families, and if you can't help them to be able to manage their emotions and what they're going through. Yesterday, one of our substitute paraprofessional, who we love, she's also a parent for one of our students, she just beat cancer. And so the entire 8th grade class lined up the hallway and had her do a walkthrough as they clapped and applauded her celebration as she took off her hat, showing her new hairdo. And it's just, that's the kind of family we want to create here. And so if they don't have a family at home that's as strong as the one we have here, we want to make sure that when they come here, they know they're loved and they know people have their back, and they know we're going to hold them accountable, even if they don't. Sometimes, I said, sometimes you're not going to like me. That's okay. Sometimes I don't like you either, but I love you, and that's different. And so just, being really honest about that with everybody. Staff will tell you we go through lots of tissues. People go through things, and it's not from hiding from it and not suffering in silence. We help and support each other. We support our babies and we support our families as much as we can. And we use our partners to help with that mission too, in any way we can. And so this year we're doing SEL modules that we're creating, and we're going to have an SEL celebration at the end of the year. So everything is rooted in that.
Thank you, Principal. I love your passion that comes through, living and in color. OMG, you're awesome. I love you. Thank you so much for being on our broadcast today. Thank you, Dylan. Thanks, Chris. Thank you, Christopher. Thank you, Kate, Denise, our co-host. Of course, our Assistant Superintendent, Wilfredo Ortiz, who had to go on and be a part of our redistricting with our superintendent, Mr. James Earl, over at Kilmer School. And so we're going to close out. I just have one announcement for some exciting news that's going to happen next week. We're going to have our school business administrator, Jane Howard, on to talk about our budget process and what that looks like, and the guidelines and the timeframes that we work within as a school district to prepare a budget. And that's, we're talking about funding, right? We're talking about money that goes into our school system to help our principals to direct those dollars to this programs and the students that we need to increase their academic achievement and facilities and so forth and so on. So we're going to have that great conversation with our school business administrator next week, Ms. Jane Howard. And so I just want to really thank you, Principal Hill, again, and your team for being a part of our broadcast. And thank you so much, Denise. Any final words, Denise?
I am so thankful that we had an opportunity to feature Hedgepeth Williams School of the Arts and Passage Theater. And for those that missed some of the conversation, don't worry, this will be uploaded to our YouTube channel. So please subscribe to Trenton TV. And also you can listen later tonight at 7 p.m. on AM 1300. WIMG, or you can view it on television. And that's all I have to say for today. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you so much. Everyone have a good night. We'll see you next time. God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you for
Bye-bye.
having us.
God bless you.
Thank you.